A country ready to welcome your investment, which values your friendship and will never exclude anyone because of their race, religion, colour or creed. The words of the Prime Minister of the World Islamic Economic Forum, which was hosted for the first time in London this week. The PM's warm words are sure to be welcomed by British Muslims who've endured a spate of negative headlines recently. There's been the controversy over the wearing of the veil, attitudes to women and the radicalisation of some young British Muslims. In a moment, I'll be talking to the Secretary-General of the Muslim Council of Britain, Farooq Murad. First, here's our Giles.
The call to Friday prayers at the East London Mosque, which has strong links with the Muslim Council of Britain, one of the more vocal groups amongst British Muslims.
Despite the fact that it frequently happens, it's neither helpful nor accurate to describe the British Muslim community. There are so many sects, traditions, cultures, nationalities even, that it's more accurate to describe the British Muslim communities. But there is one question that's increasingly being put to all of them. Are they doing enough internally to address some challenging issues that stem from being a Muslim in Britain?
Are Britain's nearly 3 million Muslims willing to confront radicalisation, attitudes to non-Muslims, to women and to cases of sexual exploitation in a meaningful way? A number of them say no, not nearly enough.
I think one thing we've got in common is we're all British.
Former jihadi Hanif Kadir has spent 10 years telling young Muslim teenagers how they can reject extremist radicalisation, using outward bound courses and community work. But he and others doing this work think some elders and imams are failing their youngsters.
They never believed that there were certain issues within the community. They've always had their heads buried under the sand, sadly. It's been going on for decades. That one thing is said in public to please the UK PLC or the government, but in private something very different has been said, and the message has been confused. But some of them don't get the message confused. Some of the young people, it pushes them further into a space where they are very vulnerable for radical recruiters.
For thousands of youngsters, life is not about jihad, but just trying to live one's faith within an increasingly secular society. A struggle not helped, say some scholars, if rigid interpretations of the Quran are being preached.
Certainly cultural practices, which are really Arab or South Asian in origin, often don't make sense in 21st century Britain. And you're not being religious if you stick to those. You're perhaps creating obstacles. And it's better to let go of some of those cultural problems, especially when they lead to clear injustices, such as forced marriage, honour-based violence, a reticence to talk about grooming, for example, or about discrimination against women, etc., etc. There's a long list. But I'm very clear that, in fact, the bad Muslim is the one who sticks to unflinching, narrow, dogmatic, literalist, fundamentalist assumptions of religion.
One issue often focused on as interpretation is the wearing of the niqab. The government's indicated it's against banning the veil, but polling suggests 80% of Britons favour a ban in public places. Many Muslim women want the choice, but some want that choice to be informed.
I think there are more women in this country that are making the decision to wear it, but I think what's sad is that many of them don't seem to recognise the legacy of what the niqab stood for. A lot of those preachers who do advocate the wearing of the niqab, they also preach that Muslim women should be removed from the public sphere. They preach that women should be sidelined and should be confined to the private sphere. They argue that women are sexual objects that should be covered up and that the preservation of morality falls on their shoulders, unlike men.
The Muslim Council of Britain recently got praise for holding a conference on combating sexual exploitation in the wake of abuse cases that had involved groups of predominantly Pakistani men. But for one man who's followed the story for 3 years, the MCB and others need to do much more.
For this country to have a decent future, we need to get along together. And if things like attitudes towards the non-Muslim girl, in stark contrast to the obsession with the honour and chastity of the Muslim girl, of your sister, of your daughter, are such that actions that would be unthought of with a Muslim girl become somehow permissible with a white girl, then we were all in trouble.
And to some, attitudes to women are not limited to sexual interaction, but the very structures and life in Muslim communities, and indeed the MCB itself.
You know, I'd like to say to the MCB, what are you doing about the fact that there are mosques in this country that aren't allowing women in? The fact that there are very few mosques in this country that have women's voices and decision-making abilities on the mosque committees? What are you doing about the fact that there are women in this country, Muslim women, who are experiencing female genital mutilation, that they're experiencing forced marriages or honour-based violence? What are you doing about the fact that there are Muslim women who are getting married and whose marriages are not being registered and who are being left homeless, who are being denied inheritance rights or maintenance rights? What are you doing about the fact that there are Sharia councils in this country that have been found to be discriminating against women? What are you doing about the fact that there are young men in this country who continue to hold very misogynistic views about Muslim women, about their role? What are you doing? And it's not just in terms of words or issuing the odd occasional press release. That's not going to solve this problem of deeply patriarchal communities.
That all these issues can be exploited to the point of Islamophobia is undoubted. But many non-Muslims feel unless British Muslim communities do tackle these things openly, a difficult cultural gap will exist between the two.
And the Secretary-General of the Muslim Council of Britain, Farooq Murad, joins me now. Welcome to the programme. One visible sign that sets Muslims apart is women covering their faces. Do you accept that the full veil, the niqab and the burqa make it well nigh impossible for the wearer to play a full part in mainstream society?
Well, Henry, first of all, there is almost largely consensus that niqab, which is the covering of the face, is not an obligatory requirement. And
no, I understand that, but do you accept that those who do it are cutting themselves off from mainstream society?
Some Muslim women, a very small minority, do. And also, whilst wearing niqab, many of them are also working in in various walks of life successfully. That's a choice that they make, and they see it as a faith requirement. But as I said, it really is red herring in the sense that it applies to such a small number of Muslim women.
Well, but it seems to be a growing number, and for many Muslim preachers, isn't separation precisely the point of the niqab? As Sarah Khan says, they preach that Muslim women should be removed from the public sphere.
No, certainly not. If you look at the Muslim women in the public sphere, we have many very successful role models.
Yes, but not the ones who are veiled.
Maybe not in the public arena as such, but we do have hijab-wearing women. As I said, Henry, that veil is a practice which is practiced by a very small number of
Do you favour it?
I personally do not think it's a requirement at all.
Now, I understand it's not a requirement, but do you think that women should wear the veil?
I think it is wrong to force anyone to wear veil.
I didn't ask you that either. I'm just saying, in your opinion, should they wear the veil?
It is wrong to force anyone to wear the veil.
I'm not saying you want to force them. I'm asking, do you think they should, of their own free choice, should they?
If they, in this country, if it's not interfering in a lot of individuals do a lot of things out of their free choice, which I don't approve of, which I don't think it is conducive for, it helps their cause. But I do not have the right to take the choice away from them.
That wasn't what I'm still unsure if you think it's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, are not many Muslim women in this country being encouraged or even forced by Muslim preachers and often their male relations who want to keep Muslim women in their place?
As I said, it is wrong for anyone to force any Muslim women to
But how would we ever know in a family? How would we know if someone's husband or brother wasn't forcing the woman to wear?
Exactly, we don't know what goes on in people's homes and what sort of pressures are applied on people to do all sorts of things, you know.
Well, we know what a number of preachers are saying. I want you to look at this picture. It's very popular on Islamic websites up there. And it shows the woman is wearing the niqab, having a straight route to heaven. And the one who isn't, the other Muslim woman dressed in more Western gear, is condemned to hell, the fiery doors. Do you consider that a proper message for young Muslim women?
Not at all. I don't consider it.
You don't think that should be shown?
No, I don't think that's a proper message at all.
So any Islamic websites in Britain
none of
show
our
that?
Muslim Council of Britain is an organisation of 500 affiliates from north to the south across the country, and this is not coming from any of our affiliates. So as I said, those very minority views propagated by individuals here and there should not be used to actually represent Muslim
That
community.
would not have the support of the MCB.
That would not have the support of the MCB, clearly.
Does the Madani Girls' School in Tower Hamlets have your support? It requires girls as young as 11 to wear a black burqa outside school. It says, quote, it's the desired dress code of a Muslim female. Do you agree with that?
As I said, all the schools have their uniform policies, and faith schools in uniform policies
Do you agree with
reflect
that?
some of their faith practices. So I'm not sure exactly what the policies, but I said...
Well, I've just told you what it is. Do you agree with the Madani Girls' School that young girls as young as 11 should wear a black burqa outside school?
I don't think black burqa wearing of the veil should be, as I said at the beginning, should be imposed
But this,
on
but
any
this is part
Muslim
of the
girl.
dress code. It is the desired dress
Well,
code of a Muslim female.
And
Do you agree with that?
all the schools are regulated by regulatory...
But I'm asking for your view.
As I said, I've given my view. I've said it at the beginning that I do not think that it should be imposed.
No, but I'm not
against
asking
the will
I'm asking
of
if you
any girl to
would
wear
you send your
veil.
daughter to a school that made her wear a black burqa at the age of 11?
Madani Girls' School?
Would you?
I wouldn't, no.
I mean, it just seems when you see all these cases that some Muslims, particularly some Muslim preachers, are determined to segregate young Muslim girls right from the start, at a very early age from society.
It's not their segregation as such. I would say that there are faith schools. If you look at Tawheedul Islam Girls' School in Blackburn, which is a faith school, girls' school, Muslim girls' school, set in very traditional setting, it has actually come top of the league table this year in the secondary school league table.
Yeah, but it has
So
a
that
strict,
is quite
it
an
also
achievement.
has a
But
strict
many of those
dress
girls,
code, but it doesn't make 11-year-olds wear
but many of
burqas.
those girls go on to make a very successful career and
Not
work in all
wearing
walks of
burqas.
life. As I said, I'm sure there are examples of many Muslim women. There are very few, but those who do, they actually have successful careers.
The Deobandi
They make
movement, it's a very conservative movement from the subcontinent on Islam. It now controls over 40% of British mosques. They issue fatwas, legal judgments, supposedly based on Islamic law, on their websites. Here are some of their recent judgments. Let me show you this one. A female is encouraged to remain within the confines of her home as much as possible. She should not come out of the home without need and necessity. What do you say to that?
We need to see the whole context of that quote. I mean, in what context that quote has been actually laid out.
Well, it's pretty clear. It's saying that women should not be allowed out, that should stay in the home as much as possible. Do you agree with that?
I think the Deobandi school of thought is very much prevails in the city I come from, Leicester,
Yeah.
and there are many, many mosques. And I see many, many Muslim women who are walking out.
Yep.
They are.
Yeah, but this is what the mosque is recommending women do.
So again, I don't know the context because practice is quite the contrary.
Well, let me show you another one. It is generally impermissible for a woman to travel a distance of more than 48 miles unless accompanied by a male relative, even if the purpose is to attend a religious gathering. Another fatwa from the Deobandi mosque movement. Do you agree with that?
Some of these, I think, have been picked out. I don't know the full source of them, but they've been picked out from material which may be dating back to different cultural settings. And in practice, they are not practiced and applied.
This is
by
advice
far and
being
large.
given as we speak now.
As I said, this may be advice given, but the practice, these are not being practiced because
No, but do you agree with
in
that
Leicester.
advice?
No, I don't agree at all.
So if you don't, why? And these are from the Deobandi mosques.
Yes.
If you don't, how come 72 of these mosques are affiliated to your council?
But as I said, within those mosques, there may be publications from one of their scholars which may have said this and may have been published. But they have been quite often translated from, said in countries abroad and translated.
But this is advice they're giving to young Muslim women now. Advice from mosques that are affiliated to the Muslim Council of Britain. Now, do you ever speak to them about that?
Muslim Council of Britain is a very broad based organization. We have all different schools of thoughts. We are actually working on lots of common issues on which we work to create a community which positively integrates, which positively contributes.
Did you ever speak to them to
But
say, look, this is not appropriate advice for British Muslims?
Within personal practices, there may be certain advices or publications available, but people make their choices.
So it's okay for mosques affiliated to your organisation to issue fatwas like that?
We have been working on standards for our mosques, for our organizations, and many of these things will fall under that scrutiny. And I think we need to create that.
Why do only 26% of British mosques have facilities for women?
Well, mosque, if you go back to Islamic requirement of prayer, whilst it was obligatory for men to come out and pray in mosque, it was not obligatory because of certain other commitments that women have. So when mosque began, very poor community putting up their mosque at the beginning in terraced houses, in mill towns.
They could do it now, couldn't they?
Yes, many, and as a result.
So did you have a policy to encourage them?
Of course, yes.
Is that on your website?
It is our policy to encourage
all mosques. Is it on your website?
It's not on our website. Our practice is that MCB has got a quota of 20% of its national council to be women, to be female.
You see, coming out of this Deobandi movement, there's a kind of conscious stream of superiority and separation between Muslims and non-Muslims, or kuffar as apparently they're known. Look at this quote from Riyad ul Haq. He's a well-known Deobandi preacher in this country. It is generally impermissible, it's coming up. We are in a very dangerous position here. He says, we live among the kuffar. We work with them, we associate with them, we mix with them, and we begin to pick up their habits. That's what he wants to stop.
That is a scholar's view. I disagree with that. We believe that we live in a society where minority and Muslims present in any society of the world, and Muslims historically have lived as minorities in many, many countries. Muslim, and they went as minority to
so you would disassociate yourself from that?
I would.
And the council?
The council's practice is completely contrary.
So why do you allow people like that to have mosques that are affiliated to you?
People are entitled to view, but mosques which we affiliate, the requirement is for any organization, a mosque to be affiliated, is that they are registered charity, they are bound by Charity Commission's rules and regulations.
All right.
We only accept those as members who are under the law of this country, are legitimate bodies.
But this is a matter for law. This is a matter of taste.
It's a matter of the practice.
Which you don't seem to be doing anything about. Let me move on to an even bigger issue. In 2009, the MCB signed the Istanbul Declaration. It advocated attacks on Jewish communities around the world. Do you still support the Istanbul Declaration? No,
we never supported Istanbul Declaration,
you signed it.
And Muslim Council of Britain never signed Istanbul.
One of your leading lights signed it.
What a member in his individual capacity signed, who signed his declaration, and he actually in the media mainstream defended his position that he did not, that declaration did not condone.
So you've disassociated yourself from it?
Yeah, we completely did.
So what's wrong with the Istanbul Declaration?
I think I'm not sure about Istanbul Declaration because we disassociated on the basis that we did not sign.
You disassociated yourself before reading it?
No, we did not sign the declaration. So
you've not read it?
I've read the Istanbul Declaration, but I can't recall completely exactly all the aspects of the declaration. But what I would say is that at the time, within the national newspapers and media, there was a discussion, debate, and the person who signed also highlighted and said that that was not what was meant by the declaration.
For how long has the MCB disassociated itself from the Istanbul Declaration?
From day one. MCB.
Well, it can hardly be from day one. Your representative who went to Istanbul signed it.
MCB never signed Istanbul Declaration.
All right, well. The East London Mosque, which you personally and the MCB closely associated with. It's also the venue for a number of extremist speakers and speakers who espouse extremist positions. This year, Shakil Beg, he spoke there and he hailed jihad as the greatest of deeds. In 2009, the mosque hosted a video presentation by somebody described by the US security as an al-Qaeda supporter. You had another speaker there who in the past had described Christians and Jews as filth. You've had a jihadist supporter of the Taliban there. Why do you do nothing to stop extremism and extremists like that at this mosque with which you're associated with?
We have no truck and we with extremism or with terrorism
So why don't you stop it?
or any rhetoric which condones or supports violence.
So why don't you stop this?
We have issued guidelines, and mosque itself is a registered charity which has its own rules and regulations and procedures, but it's a very large mosque where lots of organizations book and come and hold their gatherings. They rent out the facilities, but mosques have done their own.
You were prepared to speak alongside a man, Qazi Hussein Hamed, who saluted suicide bombers and said that 9/11 was not Osama, it was a Zionist conspiracy. Why would you share a platform like that?
I don't think I shared platform, but
no, he wasn't allowed in there, but
nevertheless, that's different organizations hold lots of different conferences here. There are many members MCB has.
So why did you agree?
I do not agree with that particular view.
No, but you were prepared to share a platform.
I completely reject that view.
But you were
I'm not in what
to
context I share the platform, but I completely reject that view.
Now, when you add all this up, it's my final question. The attitude to women, the alliance with the most fundamentalist of Islamic mosques, the toleration of intolerant views, a willingness for you to be counted among them. Why should anybody of goodwill, either a Muslim or a non-Muslim, regard the MCB as a force for good in our society?
MCB is the largest umbrella organization which represents all different organizations which are our affiliates represent the whole cross-section of the Muslim community. I think what you've done is taken snippets of certain individual views. They're not the views of our affiliates, and it will be unfair to represent MCB's view based on those which you have highlighted in this particular program. As far as MCB's views and positions are concerned, and the work that we do is quite clear and is there on our website.
They're all associated with you, but we have to leave it there. Farooq Murad, thank you.